Hi, in this video we'll talk a little bit about proportions and frequency tables. So specifically, we'll look at two-way frequency tables that display the frequencies across two separate variables. So in this particular example, we have our two variables of gender and our variable for brushing teeth. And we may look to see whether males or females are more likely to brush their teeth versus not. So for gender, I have females and I have males. And for my brush teeth, I have yes, the person reported that they brushed their teeth daily, and no, they said that they didn't brush their teeth daily. And so we can look at our data for this particular table. So our data is represented here in the middle. So we have 395 females who are saying that they brush their teeth versus 105 who are saying that they don't. We have 305 males who report that they brush their teeth versus 195 males who report that they do not. If we add all four of these cells up, then we get our total sample size of 1,000 participants. If we look at our row and column totals, we can look to see what is the total number of females in our study. Regardless of whether they brush their teeth or not, we have 500 total females who were sampled, and we have 500 total males. We can also look at our column totals. So we can look at across genders, how many people in our sample, regardless of what gender they are reporting that they brush their teeth. We have 700 versus those that are reporting that they do not brush their teeth, regardless of gender. We have 300 participants who are reporting that. And so when it comes to determining proportions, I think that people get confused when it comes to determining what the appropriate denominator is. And in order to determine that, we have to think very carefully about what the question is asking. And so let's say, for instance, that we want to know what is the proportion of people, regardless of gender, who report that they brush their teeth in this sample. So we're wanting to know the proportion of people who brush their teeth. So of people who brush their teeth, people, right, not based on any gender, then that tells us that we're looking at the entire sample of people, regardless of gender. So we have 1,000 people total, so that's our denominator. We want to know the total proportion of people who report brushing their teeth. That's our column total here of 700. So our proportion would be 700 over 1,000. Alternatively, if we wanted to know the proportion of people who don't brush their teeth, that would be our 300 over 1,000. If we wanted to know the proportion of females in our study, regardless of whether they brush their teeth or not, our proportion of females in the sample, so our total sample, we have 500 females out of a total of 1,000 people. So our proportion of females would be 500 over our 1,000. Now, if we wanted to look at individual cells compared to column or row totals, this is where it can get a little tricky. So let's say that we want to know what proportion of females brush their teeth. So the question is proportion of females who brush their teeth. So this tells us that we are looking at just females. So we want to know the proportion of females who report that they brush their teeth. So my denominator would not be the 1,000 because we're not interested in everyone. Here we're just interested in females. So my denominator would be my 500. And I want to know what proportion out of that 500 females brushes their teeth. It would be the 395. Let's say 395 females report that they brush their teeth out of 500 total females. If I wanted to know what proportion of males don't brush their teeth. So again, we're not interested in everyone. We just want to know out of the males. So out of this row total for males, our 500 is our denominator. What proportion out of that 500 does not brush their teeth would be this cell here. So it would be 195 over my 500 total males. We could also look at denominators for our column totals. So if we wanted to know what proportion of people who brush their teeth are male. So proportion of people who brush their teeth are male. So here we're not interested in everyone. We're just interested in the people who brush their teeth. So this time, our denominator is going to be the 700. And we want to know what proportion of that 700 are male. Well, out of the 700 total people who reported that they brushed their teeth, 305 of those were male. So we have a proportion of 305 out of 700 over 700. If I wanted to know the proportion of people who don't brush their teeth that are female. So what proportion of people who don't brush their teeth are female? So this time, our denominator is 300. Our numerator would be 105. So 105 of the 300 people who don't brush their teeth are female. So with the question, you have to determine which values you're looking for. So it won't always be the total number of participants. You have to look very carefully to see what is the total that is being asked for. In some instances, it may be a row total. In some instances, it may be a column total. And in some instances, it may be the total number of participants in the entire study.